Hey guys, I just finished my video series on the best budget players in the MLS for every position, and I thought a fun way to kind of cap this off before I transition and start looking at the different Asia leagues would be to play a little game where I give myself a few different budgets and I build the best team that I can. Wes, this is Great East Space. I appreciate all the engagement I've been getting in the comments as well as on Twitter and a couple of emails on Discord. It's been great, so continue to reach out to me if you guys have any questions or you want to see anything specific with different kind of content. And let's go ahead and jump into this though. So the first team I'm going to build is with 0.5 ETH. I'm going to start it off with our goalie, which I'm going to use Przemysław Titan. Big chunk of our ETH right there at 0.225. So I mean that's pretty much half of our budget. He's the lowest priced goalie that is a starter in the MLS. So that ate up a big chunk of our budget right there. If you're able to use a common MLS goalie, that just goes to show, you can put together a team around him really cheap. Defender, we've got Ben Sweat. So Ben is with Austin FC, which is a new expansion team this year in the MLS. So I think he's pretty undervalued right now. He didn't put up great numbers at his last stop, but he's thought of pretty highly around the league. He's been a starter for a long time. So a good option there. Our midfielder, Thiago Santos, so plays for FC Dallas. I think he's a really undervalued option. Give you about 50 points a week for a very, very good price. Teal Bunbury, forward from New England Revolution. He's a starter. Forwards are expensive. I think he's a good choice if you're just trying to plug someone relatively cheaply. And for our bonus player, Nick Lima. So very similar to Ben Sweat, he actually plays for FC Austin in their inaugural season. So I think he's a little bit underrated while people aren't sure what to expect. But I think FC Austin is actually going to come out and have a pretty strong year one. So to kind of summarize that, we're expecting to get an average of 225 points from this team. That is going to cost us 0.471 ETH. And again, almost half of that is the goalie. So if you're just able to get a common goalie, or maybe you bought earlier and you have a goalie that was a little bit cheaper for you, you can really put together a team that's going to score well for a relatively low price point. So even though it's expensive to get into SoRare, I think this goes to show that you can still put together a competitive team at 225 points. You're over that 0.01 threshold, and you're pushing up against that 0.02 ETH threshold that you can get as a bonus payout in the Global All-Stars competition. So this is the team I put together for half an ETH. Moving on to 0.75 ETH. What do we have? We've got Brad Guzan in keeper, so the Atlanta United man tending goal for us. For our defender, we've got Harrison Afool. For midfielder, we've got Darwin Sarin. At forward, Carlos Fierro. And our extra player is Nuhu Tolo. So just going to kind of summarize this. Not going to go too in-depth on each of these guys. Most of them were covered in my MLS series that I mentioned at the start. So if you missed those videos, go check those out. This team, though, is going to put together an average of 255 points. The average price for them, and this is based on the 3-day rolling average that you can see on SoRare data, excuse me. So for 0.722 ETH, 255 points. We're over that 0.25 threshold on average, right? There's going to be variation week to week. Some weeks you're going to be under that threshold, but some weeks you're going to, potentially win a card reward. So this is a really strong team, and I think to be able to put this together for, around 0.7 ETH, you're in pretty good shape here. This is definitely a solid team. Right now, I've got Afool slotted in as one of my starters. I would love to get Fierro, but haven't been able to chase down his card yet. I think these other guys are great options as well. All right, my next budget. So if I give myself 1 ETH, this is what my team would look like. Surprising maybe to a few people here. So I'm going back to Przemysław Titan. He's the cheapest starting goalie. I just think the goalies, there isn't a whole lot of variance between your low-end guys and your high-end guys from consistent point outputs, but the price differential between them is huge. So I think you're better spent to take that money that you could put into a really, really high-end goalie like Andre Blake or James Marchanowski, or how you pronounce his name, and put it into someone on the lower end, and then take that extra money and put it into other positions. Similar story here, Harrison Afool. At 50 points a week for less than 0.1 ETH, it's just a steal. Plug them into your lineup. That's what I'm doing. And then that lets us put a little bit more budget into some of these other guys, like Diego Chara. So Diego Chara averages about 60 points a week, which is amazing, and he's 0.14 ETH. So also, a relatively good price point there. For forward, this is where we start spending a little bit more money. So Gustavo Beau plays for New England. He is a goal scorer. He puts up a lot of big weeks, a lot of 80-plus point weeks for him, which is the kind of week that I would be wanting to have fairly consistently if I'm going to spend that kind of money. But that's what puts you in contention to win those rewards. And then our bonus player is Sebastian Blanco. So I actually picked up one of his cards for right around that 0.225 is what I paid, which is the most expensive field player, non-goalie that I have. And he's coming back from an ACL tear last year. His first day back in training was earlier this week, which is a great sign. They're hoping he'll be ready for day one. I think that's a good sign that he will be. And if he is, I think he's a steal. So, go check out his SoRare data. There's obviously risk. He's coming back from injury. I think he's 32 years old. But he was an MVP candidate before he went down to injury last year, and is a superstar, honestly. So if you go check out his SoRare data page, his points, they look like someone that would be, almost half an ETH, just with the way he's clustered up around that, 70, 80, 90 point range. So this is my team for 1 ETH. What does that come out to? It comes out to 270 points on average, and the price point is 0.939 ETH. All right. One more team put together here. So this is the best team, if you've got the, maybe invested in GameStop and you got a little bit of cash to spend, you can put Andre Blake in. So he averages 50 points, but like I was mentioning earlier, he is super expensive. He is 0.8 ETH. Walker Zimmerman, 60 points, 0.37 ETH. Pozuelo, awesome midfielder. He gets about 65 points a week. Carlos Vela, the MVP trophy is his to lose for this year. And Joseph Martinez returning from injury with something to prove. So this would be kind of the all-star team if budget wasn't really an issue for you and you just wanted to put out the best team that you could. In my opinion, right? So tell me in the comments below if you guys think that someone else should be in this lineup. Who are you taking out? Who are you putting in? I would love to hear from you guys. This is just kind of the 5 that I picked. They would average around 305 points, and it would cost just over 4.5 ETH to put the lineup together. So these are the teams I put together. I'm going to nerd out for a minute. Feel free to hang around. This is just kind of looking at the data and the way that my mind works. So I didn't count the 0.5 ETH team in this, but starting with the 0.75 ETH team, I think you can start getting really competitive. So it is 15.7% of the cost of that superstar team. So you're paying 0.722 for these guys instead of over 4.5 for those all-stars. But you're getting 83.6% of the production. So on average, they're getting 255 points, which is really strong. Again, it puts you over that threshold. And every week, you've got a chance to compete for a potential card reward as well. And then if we look over at our 0.75, our 1 ETH team, they are 20% of the cost of that all-star group, if you will. And they put up 88.5% of the production. So again, there's just not that much difference. You're talking about a 10% swing. A couple of your guys have a good week, maybe a couple of the all-stars have a bad week, and all of a sudden, you're outperforming them. And, we're doing that for 20% of the cost. So it's a really, I think, effective way to kind of start to build if you, are on a little bit more of a budget, which I think most of us are as we're starting SoRare. So does this mean you shouldn't buy these superstars? It's a tricky question, and it really depends on your situation. I think the superstars are actually a good investment, which might surprise you to hear me say after everything that I just kind of put out there about why there's some really great values to be had, and I think you can compete with cheaper teams. But I think the reason is, you're going to be more consistent. So yes, the mid-level teams can kind of overperform by 10, 15%, have a couple guys put up a really big score. But But those superstars are superstars for a reason. They put up the big scores almost every week. So you're going to be more consistent. You're going to win more cards, which is going to, kind of get the ball rolling. Maybe you win a couple of star rares, you win a couple of tier 1 rares, and that pays off for itself really, really quickly. They also are going to retain their value and appreciate more. So when you think about assets, a lot of times what you see is the premium assets retain their value. So think about it like a Rolex, right? So many people want a Rolex and there's only so many of them. That makes them extremely valuable. Whereas, looking back at our mid range here, someone like Harrison Fool, like, yeah, he's great and he puts up a lot of points, but there's alternatives out there. So if someone wants someone that can go get them 50 points, they can go get, 10 other guys that can do that for a relatively similar price point. Versus, Walker Zimmerman, you want a defender that's going to put up 60 points. The list is really short. So these guys that have a ton of money to spend coming into SoRare, which I think is going to continue to happen, they're all going to want these same guys. And if, there's only 100 of them, then it's naturally going to keep raising the price up and up and up because there's no alternatives for them to turn to. So I think these guys in the premier category are good investments that are going to appreciate, assuming that kind of SoRare stays on the trajectory that I think we all believe it will. So yeah, I think, it's a good time to be investing. You can compete with less money and still win rewards. But if you have more money to pump in, you can win more consistently and you can get some assets that I think are going to continue to appreciate in value. So that's kind of my summary for the MLS. Let me know if there's anything else that you guys want to hear about the MLS. Did a ton of research, so I feel pretty knowledgeable about it right now. I'm investing the majority of my budget in SoRare in the MLS right now, trying to get ready for the season, which will kick off in about a month. So if you got any questions, drop them in the comment. We really appreciate a like, subscribe. Got a lot more great videos coming, a couple things that I'm going to try and get out, into this week, starting next week. Other than that, I hope everyone has a great day, a great week. March Madness is starting this weekend, which I'm super excited about. It's my favorite sporting event, just the chaos of it. You have back-to-back games. There's never a chance to breathe. Everything's, win or go home. So really enjoy it. I'm excited for it. Hope you all have a great weekend. And I'll see you back here for some more videos in the very, very near future.